Alright, so some of you requested that I play through SCORN for you. That's what we're going to do. This is my second playthrough of the game, and I will be focusing mainly on the story, the environmental storytelling, the plot points, so that I can reveal as much of what is actually going on in this game to you as I possibly can. I just got finished reading the art book for the game, and I've gotten a much better insight onto what the developers intended with the environmental storytelling. So the game starts with a humanoid character laying on the ground, and they gain consciousness. And you can see that they have been kind of infected, tainted with something. There's this wood-like, bone-like organism or something that's kind of growing on them, through them, and holding them down to the floor here as we break free. And we begin to crawl, and now we're looking at a flashback to us, the same character that we're seeing here, but it's showing us how we came about this assembly plant. You'll also notice this flashback shows us with no upgrade on our hand, which we will receive shortly. The version of us that's infected does have the upgrade on that left hand. So that's how we know this is a flashback. So now we're going to play through the flashback to get up to that point where we woke up on the floor with that horrible infection running through our body. I guess mutation would be a better word. So the very first obstacle or goal that this game gives is this door that we have no means of opening. But we will be able to open this door at the end of this prologue, and it's actually pretty cool, because not only will we get through this door eventually, but we will also not be alone when we do that, and we'll be very different in form as well. So we'll get to that. So clearly we're in some kind of factory. The art book goes into detail and explicitly states that the architecture is not only made to look like bone and flesh, it is bone and flesh. The people who made this facility actually used living beings to build it. So this is our first big area. Another door we cannot open. And in this factory, the purpose of it that's defined in the art book is it is used to create what are called mold men. So these are artificially created humanoids who live the miserable existence of being either workers, menial workers, or their bodies are recycled, repurposed to create machines, to create architecture, such as the one we're about to use here. So we've got a gadget here, which is nothing more than a key. See a cart here. Multiple carts just kind of thrown about. I love how you can see through the walls in places. So yeah, this place has not been operational for a little while, you can guess. Here's our first little puzzle. We're going to use our new key to try to open this door. So we're going to unlatch this side before we open it up. And there's no going back. Very atmospheric room here. This central part, this atrium, really reminds me of the prison in Batman, the third of the Christopher Nolan Batmans. Dark Knight Rises, I think it's called. But we can see... I just realized, actually, this is crazy, I just realized this bridge here and those Moldman pods are actually where you do the Moldman puzzle that we're about to do. That's really funny, I just realized that. Alright, so let's go there. This is ultimately where we'll try to go at the end of this chapter. Just kind of exploring. There are some machines we can activate, and they will show you kind of, what they do, but it won't be till later until we can actually utilize them, such as this one here, the scooper. There's a scooper chair and a saw chair. You can use one or the other. We're going to be going with the more interesting Moldman fate. So you can see some pods where the Moldmen are kept, I guess incubated. This just kind of circles around. There's an interesting statue in this area when we come back here at a later time in the game that I don't see at this time. I'll point it out when we get there, but I'm very curious as to how they got there, because they're not here now. Try to figure that out together. Alright, so this puzzle. I spent the most amount of time on this puzzle out of any of them. So what we want to do, first of all, let's get this pod over here. So there are two pods that have lights on them indicating there's signs of life, right? So typically you will try both of them, and the second time you'll succeed with extracting a Moldman. So the first pod here, we're hopeful but you can hear the poor mold man dying as he's pulled from the wall. Okay, I think I'm getting somewhere. Now we can move this double piece where we need to. Alright, we did it. Probably took about 10 less minutes than it did my first time. Still a really tough puzzle for my brain. This is the first and only time I've ever won a crane game. No lie, I actually spent like 20 bucks trying to get a Jigglypuff plush out of a crane once at the fair. Never had any luck with him. So the fact that this mold man is still alive and he's been hanging up on that wall for who knows how long, it's a pretty frightening thought. I guess, you know, the wall itself probably provides them with enough sustenance to live, but my gosh, what an existence. There's a weird moving fleshy-like substance down here. Oh, there he is. Alright, so here he is, the mold man. Painfully squished, pressured into this pod. Can you imagine how uncomfortable you'd be? The art book talks about how the mold men have poor vision. So that places this strange cap on the top of the pod. Not exactly sure why. Maybe someone in the comments knows. But yeah, the people who ran this place had no regard for the moldmen's lives. They are basically just tools, like brick and mortar cement. Probably used as slaves at times, but mostly used for their body parts. Perhaps they were the first attempt at reproduction without a female host, and they, being as unsuccessful as they were probably then used for more menial tasks and for recycling. Alright, so here he is. We're gonna go with the second option here, which will take us down this way. A bit slower, but definitely a more interesting outcome. So a complaint I see about this game sometimes is people will ask, you know, why are you doing any of these things in the game? Like, why would you be going around using these machines? You know, what's the motivation? What's the purpose? And I think that's a pretty easy question to answer. Think of it if it was real life. If you, you know, fell into this place, this strange foreign world, and you had the options that this character has, you'd do the exact same thing. There's really nothing to do but to try to attempt to progress, whatever that means, you know, to get a door open, to get something moving, so that you can find a way out. So yeah, I guess that that first machine that punched that shell, that attachment on top of the Moldman's pod, it allowed the crane here to pick it up. Yeah. It kind of added a socket for the Moldman to be further processed. You okay, buddy? I'll take that as a yes. Let's see what this does. Oh. And he's still alive. So, what I think is interesting about the two options you have here, the scooper chair versus the saw chair, the scooper chair looks like it would be the non-fatal option, right? So, I think it's funny, you know, players would look at that and say, well, I'm going to scoop him out of the chair. And they think he's going to be okay, but it actually just rips him to pieces, and you will obtain his arm to complete the puzzle. But the saw chair actually allows him to live. Not that it's a much better fate, as you will soon find out. So, having never walked before, the Moldman is having a little bit of trouble. And honestly, as a physical therapist, I really doubt this guy's ability to walk after such a short amount of time. But for the sake of the game, he's going to learn pretty quickly. It could have been a good option for maybe him to fail at walking completely, and then the player is forced to drag him over to where we need him. But this is an okay option as well. albeit maybe slightly unrealistic. He wouldn't have the muscle mass and the flexibility to ambulate right now, in my opinion. But, you know, he's not entirely human, and we don't really know how he was created. So he's following us at this point, and we're going to lead him over to this this machine, the same one that put the key gadget onto our left hand. I wouldn't say we're necessarily a good guy. As you can see, we're kind of just manhandling this poor creature. Get that hand in there. And even though we just caused him some pain, you know, he really doesn't have anybody else to rely on, so he is going to continue to follow us. For all we know, he thinks we're his mother. Who knows? Maybe he wants to get out of here as well, and we're his best chance at doing that. So I'm going to set him up on this side, and I'm going to be over here. This door requires 2 people to open. Alright, Mold Man. Suck it up, dude. It's just a flesh wound. So you cannot remove the Mold Man from this interface. So you're going to be leaving him behind. Just kind of sad. And you can hear him howling. He's alone, trapped, and the only person he's ever known, has just deserted him. And, you know, not knowing his biology, but knowing that he can survive just being attached to this grid and successfully live for quite a long time with that amount of sustenance, we can assume that he's going to be living, starving in that position behind the door for quite some time. So everything in this game is meant to be really appealing to the eye. I mean, in a certain sense, obviously it's really grotesque. But just this here at the top of the ceiling, you know, really doesn't need to be there. It's a lot of detail that could easily be overlooked. But you have a little time as you're riding up this elevator to look straight up and catch a glimpse of this really intricate ceiling work. So the walls themselves in the art book are described to be made of flesh, skin, the moldman skin, their body parts recycled. There's another moldman right here. The building blocks. Here we have quite a few more. There's some females in here. Not quite human. Spilling out of whatever this is. Actually, the art book describes this big structure here as the heart of the facility. So you can also think of it as like an engine in a factory, right? But in this place, which is so biological, it actually runs on a heart. And this thing is interesting from any angle you look at it. Here we have an interface we can't quite use. Here we have our first gun, so to speak. Although it's more of a key and a gas-pressured piston, kind of like a cow euthanizer. So I don't know if you've seen No Country for Old Men, one of my favorite movies, by the way. But the main villain in that movie uses a gas-powered cow euthanizer, which punches forward to kill his victims. So let's go back here and try out our new toy. So the art book describes these creatures with the orbs as heads as fertilizers. So they're cultivating this strange garden of grotesqueness. And the stuff they're spraying out will hurt you. So in this way, the game teaches you that you can use the poker to harm some enemies and get rid of obstacles. You can see this is very reminiscent of the scene we see at the very beginning of the game where we wake up on the floor and crawl. It happens in one of these rooms. It's another interface. Let's try it out. Because I've played this before, I know there's one more of those pieces to find and have carried off to the main room we're going to be working with, which is right here. I think the third one might actually be in that room itself. Let's see if I can find a way in. Oh, it's where we were standing earlier. For some reason I was thinking that it was a different room. There we go. So the first weird pod thing full of fertilizer is given to us for free right there on the floor in front of this tower. Let's try this one too. So again, you might ask, well, why is this character doing these things? Activating these switches, fulfilling the operations of these machines. Well, it's because that's all they can do. Really cool scenery here. We're finally outside, actually. Really for the first time since we fell in the hole. And really poor visibility, you can't see very far. Let's go ahead and activate the third piece of this puzzle. Let's see what it accomplishes. Uh-oh. So we're covered with this substance. It seems to be already kind of leaching onto our body, overtaking us. And that, of course, is how we ended up in the scene at the very beginning of the game, right after the menu, where we woke up in shock and had this mutation growing throughout our body. Now, what you're seeing here, this is where people get kind of confused. We are now looking at a completely different character. And this is occurring much farther into the future than what we just experienced with our previous character. We are a newborn, opening our eyes for the first time. So the art book describes this, what they call a Genesis wall, in pretty good detail, and basically these newborns basically breach. Their backs are facing the exit of the pod, and once they grow large enough, they break through that that barrier and fall out of the cocoon. And you can see not many who break their cocoon go on to live successful lives. The book describes that many of the newborns die from simple impact from falling from the wall. As you can see, that's what's happened here. Others will get farther, but not too much farther. The openings of the egg sacs themselves are made to look vaginal. I guess it's too late to climb back in, huh? I guess we'll push forward. This world that we are in, by the way, is described in the art book as not extraterrestrial. This place, as frightening as it sounds, is actually our world, Earth. So this is a point far, far in the future when perhaps we're having extreme difficulty in reproducing, and we've had to find other means to continue our species, experimental means. So that's all for this this section of the game. We will continue off from this point in the next video. I hope you're enjoying this playthrough so far. I look forward to sharing more of SCORN's plot and lore with you in the coming hours. Alright, take care of yourself. I'll see you again soon.